We have time for a fifth question. What should America's policy be going forward in Afghanistan? Ms. Brickley. Okay, I'm sorry. He has 90 seconds. I'm sorry.
Oh.
No, I think he started on that one, so we go with Ann for the next question. Okay. So we're all through, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're going.
Okay.
You're up. 2 minutes.
Okay. In terms of Afghanistan, I think we need to support our military leaders and give them all the tools and the support and the resources that they need in order to keep America safe. That's the most important thing, that we continue to support our troops, to support our veterans when they come home, and to support the military leaders so that they can make the right decisions and the right choices that help our troops keep us safe. What I don't like to see, that I've heard Vice President Biden and many others come out and make statements that we're going to withdraw our troops on a particular date. I think that encourages our enemies to hunker down and wait until the withdrawal state is passed and then come back out. And it puts our troops at risk. So I support the position of the military leadership to continue this effort to root out terrorism. And I know it's a very challenging task in terms of getting the government ready to sustain the efforts, but I support the military leadership in their efforts to keep the country safe. Thank you.
Mr. Larson, 2 minutes.
I've been to Afghanistan. I've met with Karzai. But more importantly, I've met with our troops. I voted to send us to war in Afghanistan to go after Osama bin Laden and to take down the Taliban. Today there are about 72 al-Qaeda that we can identify that are left in Afghanistan. The Karzai government has not demonstrated that it is capable of weaning itself off of corruption. The men and women who wear our uniform deserve the very best from us. I'm pleased as a member of Congress, though I opposed the Iraq war on fundamental basis that I thought it was the most wrong-headed foreign policy decision that we've ever made. I support and continue to support our troops because we must distinguish and make the difference between the war and the warrior. That's why we've had the largest VA increase in its history. That's why we provide for the GI Bill to make sure that our soldiers and their families get what they absolutely need. That's why when I heard the pleas of a mother who had to send her own ceramic vest to her son, that we stepped up and made sure that our military provided everything to our men and women in the field of battle. This war in Afghanistan, from Alexander the Great to the English afterwards to the Russians, is not winnable. They will revert back to their old tribal ways. We have to stabilize to the extent that we can and get our troops out of there, adhere to the timeline, and not let the rest of the world let us twist idly in the wind.
Mr. Krasky, 2 minutes.
I think that in Afghanistan we need to withdraw our troops immediately. Congressman Larson, if you support the troops, bring them home now. Period. Bring them home. Let's get them home. I understand that, but they need to come home. And I think what we need to do is, I agree with you. Genghis Khan wasn't able to conquer Afghanistan. The British weren't. The Soviets weren't. What makes us think that we are a different breed? We cannot conquer Afghanistan. The golden age of Afghanistan is what the 1950s, 60s, and 70s was, when the United States and the Soviet Union were competing for the affection of the Afghan people. They were building roads, they were building bridges, they were building schools, they were building hospitals. And then in 1979, it was Big Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter got a brilliant idea. Let's goad the Afghans into let's goad the Soviets into invading Afghanistan, and we'll create an unwinnable war that will collapse the Soviet Empire. And it worked. Unfortunately, we created the Mujahideen, which ended up becoming the Taliban. This is what Chalmers Johnson calls blowback. And we've got to deal with our own problem. If there are only 72 members of the Taliban or al-Qaeda left, why do we have to have so many troops over there? It doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it seems like a gift to the military manufacturers of this country so that they can blow up million-dollar bombs and waste hardware, and our boys die. Pat Tillman died from friendly fire. The military covered it up. and we haven't seen a legitimate congressional investigation about it. And to me, if we want to discern between the war and the warrior, we have to make sure that we bring the troops home and we don't start any more wars. The wars of the future are going to be fought with airless or unmanned aerial drones, where soldiers are going to fight from Nevada and use joysticks like it's a game. We have to stop that before it gets any worse. Bring the troops home now.
Mr. Hutchinson, 2 minutes.
I am utterly disgusted by the characterization of the Afghan people by Congressman Larson, as if they were some brutal, tribal, primitive people. If they're like that, it's because the U.S., at the behest of the Democrats and Republicans, have bombed them back to the Stone Age. If they're like that, it's because they supported the rise of the Mujahideen. In the 1970s, it was called Springtime in Kabul, where women went to school, and there was education, and there was health care. I have a friend who just recently got back from Afghanistan, and he showed me videos of Kabul Hospital. And what was there was terrible footage of men and women with limbs blown off from landmines, civilians. These aren't enemy combatants. The majority of the people that were affecting there are civilians. And this is a war for the natural resources of that country, for control of the pipelines that run through that country. A lot of the veterans come back who I've heard talk. Ted Goodnight was one of those who was over there fighting, and he said most of the time we were there, we were protecting an oil pipeline. Now I say, if you really want to help the soldiers out, you bring them home now from Afghanistan, you bring them home now from Iraq, from Haiti. They're in Haiti right now. You bring them home from Yemen, from Pakistan. Again, the drone bombings of the civilians of Pakistan. And we use that money, the 17 billion tax dollars that go to war spending from our tax dollars in Connecticut. We use it here for things like creating a mass jobs program to put people back to work. We use it to provide health insurance for everyone who's uninsured. We use it to supplement Social Security with an extra $2,000 a year for everyone over 65. We use it to provide college scholarships for every 18 to 22-year-olds who can't afford to go to college. Right? For every 18 to 22-year-old in general, we could do that with the money. We put every 4-year-old into a Head Start program, and with that $17 billion, we'd still have money left over. So I think that's the answer. Bring our troops home now.
Ms. Brickley, 90 seconds. Mr. Larson, 90 seconds.
Jack Murtha, when he historically came out and opposed the Iraq War that he had voted for, reminded everyone that as much as we'd like everyone out as soon as possible, that when the Paris Peace Treaty was signed in Vietnam, we lost 20,000 men and women in our armed services after that because we had not prepared for the appropriate withdrawal. That's why he suggested an over-horizon force. That's why we need a smaller force. But what we have to do is guarantee the appropriate exit for our troops. I'd like them home yesterday. But we have to guarantee their appropriate withdrawal and security. That is first and foremost amongst our decisions. Secondly, we have to have an energy policy in this country that makes sense. We can no longer continue to export dollars abroad. That's why I think the importance of natural gas, its abundancy, and finding it here at home. For every dollar we export abroad, we're arming the very people that are attacking our men and women in the field.
Mr. Krasky, 90 seconds.
I wonder